What is good, guys? It is your host, Mr. Ghost, with the Real Talk Podcast. Guys, when I really think the Democrats, oh my gosh, that is a new one. Whenever I think the Democrats can't get any dumber, they open their mouths. Okay? They create more of a mess. Okay? They've turned into the party of anti-Trump. From the party of the people to the party of anti-Trump. Everything Trump does is wrong. Everything Trump does is illegal. You know what I'm saying? And with all due respect to my president, sometimes you just don't got to respond. Let your people do that. Just continue doing what you're doing, winning for America. You don't have to respond to everything that these clowns say. But with that being said, a few days ago, the Democrats decided to put up a video calling for our military members to defy the orders of the President of the United States. Granted, they used the term illegal orders, which every active military member knows if the President gives you an illegal order, you can defy that order. You know what I'm saying? So you don't have to remind them of that. But I do ask these Democrats, Mark Kelly, all the way down to Jason Crow, what specific order did the president give to our military that was illegal? Now, if you're talking about deploying National Guardsmen to our streets here in America, well, listen, okay? It is Democrat-run cities where crime is through the roof. It is you guys causing the criminal crisis in the United States. It is you guys flooding our streets with the illegal immigrants with your sanctuary policies. Your party's always been for immigration first now. You guys literally went from the party of who's going to pick our cotton to the party of who's going to pick our crops. You haven't changed. You would think after getting the snot kicked out of you during the Civil War, you would change your tune. But no, you guys are still a bunch of idiots. Okay? You can't put a statement out there and be so vague with it. You're not giving a clear directive or a narrative of what law is being broken, what order is he given that's unlawful. None of that's being cleared. But Fox News, one of their hosts over there, pretty much called out Jason Crow. And you guys, we're going to watch that in a second, and it's going to be within the small boxes. I'm going to have to stop a few times to correct this individual. I might go to the big box, you guys get a bigger picture of it, and I'll stop it in between. But regardless, guys, we are living in an essential constitutional crisis. See, Trump responded to them by saying it was a seditious behavior. And he's not lying, okay? Now, a lot of Democrats are coming out now saying, well, see, Trump's threatening to kill politicians. Give me a break. Give me a break, okay? You guys have killed Charlie Kirk. You try to kill Donald Trump. You guys are the party of political violence, okay? When George Floyd was killed by the police, you guys burned down cities. That's not peaceful. Well, granted, you guys call it peaceful protesting. That's not peaceful, okay? I'm tired of the Democratic Party being so anti-Trump. They're not giving us real principles that they're going to fight on. You know what I'm saying? They're not giving us real policies they want to implement. Is anything that Trump does, they're against. Okay? Trump can eliminate the national debt, and I promise you, they'll be against it. You know what I'm saying? They'll find a way to weave that story, like how they did with the Epstein case. They try to weave it as Trump is so evil. Trump is involved. And look how quickly that turned against them. But when it comes to this seditious behavior, yes, that video really was seditious behavior. You are conducting a speech that is inciting our military to essentially to defy the orders of the President of the United States. That's treason. Did you think of that before you posted it? But we're going to go look at Fox News.
So this is the quote: refuse illegal orders. That's the message from a handful of powerful Democrats, all with military or intelligence backgrounds, who want service members to know their rights, they say, when it comes to strikes that they deem unlawful.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens. Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law or our Constitution.
All right, so the world's largest aircraft carrier is now stationed in the Caribbean as part of Operation Southern Spear. The U.S. military has targeted 21 suspected drug boats, killing at least 82 alleged smugglers. Tommy Lahren is here, but first to one of the Democrats in that video, Colorado Congressman Jason Crow, former Army Ranger and Bronze Star recipient. Thank you very much, Congressman, for joining us today. You see some of the pushback to this video when some look at it and say, you know, if you are in the United States military, you sign up, you carry out the mission that is assigned to you. You know, the other option is to not join the military or to leave if you feel that you can't carry out an order. But the command is just an integral part of what you sign up for, which you know way better than I do, and I thank you for your service. So, Congressman, thank you for being here. Why did you participate in this video?
Martha, we're standing by our troops, our service members who are often put in very difficult positions, and Donald Trump has put them in very difficult positions and has alluded to putting them in even more difficult positions in the months and years ahead. So we are reminding folks about what the Uniform Code of Military Justice says, what the Constitution says, what the law of war says. You know, this is really no different than what I did with my infantry platoon in advance of deploying to Iraq in 2003. I trained these young soldiers on their obligation to comply with the law of war, to comply with the Constitution, and what is a lawful versus a unlawful order.
What law are you talking about that's being broken? And then you said that he's implying that he might do something that they wouldn't want to uphold or follow through with in the future. What are you talking about specifically?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking. Well, number one, the protests at Lafayette Square in the first Trump administration where he said, can't you just shoot them? Can't you just shoot them in the legs or something? That's his direct quote. And of course, the then chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff
That was not a military order. That was a comment. That's not a military order.
When that's coming from the President of the United States to your generals, don't you think that's a request? That's
I'm
a question?
asking specifically now what you're talking about.
Yeah, number two, he's also threatened to send the military into Chicago and other cities to, quote, go to war with those cities. Right? That is a very, very disturbing thing. Number three, he's also alluded to sending troops to polling stations, which is actually a violation of U.S. law. U.S. criminal law prohibits troops from going to polling stations, and he's alluded to that. So those are just one of many examples.
You're talking about illusions. You're not talking about actual policy. You're not talking about things that are members of our service members who we revere and respect are actually being asked to do. So when you see this video on all over the place, when you see this video on social media, I think a lot of people scratch their heads and they say, what exactly are they talking about? Are they talking about
Martha,
not allowing gunboats to make it to the United States carrying drugs? No. Is that what you're talking about?
Martha, here's a novel idea. How about we actually prevent things from happening before they become a problem?
I think that's what they're trying to do.
What you're saying is we have to wait until there's a problem to respond to that problem.
No, I'm not.
Right? As a military officer, what I think is important is we train people, we give them information, we prepare people for challenges coming down the pike. That is what I did as a commander in the military. That's what I'm doing now, as we are standing by our troops. We are reminding them of their obligation.
Order from the commander-in-chief that we are asking our military to carry out, are you objecting to? This is very, very vague. And it was so vague in this video. I don't think people could figure out what you guys were all talking about, honestly.
Martha, Donald Trump has made a series of very disturbing comments and suggestions that would violate U.S. law and put our military in terrible positions.
Again, we're getting nowhere because you're not talking about an order.
I don't want to wait until that happens to remind our troops of their obligation, because then it will be too late. We are standing by our troops and our amazing men and women in uniform to remind them
who sign up every day as you did to carry out the orders of the commander-in-chief. We are not engaged in new wars. We have no troops on the ground in Ukraine except some who we're training pilot missions, not on any front lines of any kind. In the Caribbean right now, we've sent a carrier there. I thought these were the specific operations that are actually happening that you might be referring to. But we've created a huge presence in the Caribbean to stop fentanyl deaths, of which there were more than 48,000 plus in the last year alone. And the president doesn't want those drugs to make it to the United States. But you're not talking about any of these actual actions that have been carried out by the commander-in-chief and by the Department of Defense?
First of all, that is a separate issue. We are not talking about Venezuela at all in this video. We never mentioned it once.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
But since you raised it, I actually am deeply concerned. We spent $3 trillion, 7,000 U.S. lives, hundreds of thousands of other lives in endless wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. They ended extremely poorly because we stopped debating it. We stopped paying for it.
Yep.
We stopped
being held accountable
for it.
Yeah.
Well, that was Republicans.
I don't remember
and
you making a
Democrats.
video about that
Martha,
at the time.
Actually, you should look it up. I did make videos about it, as a matter of fact. I pushed back on Joe Biden. I pushed back on Donald Trump. I pushed back on Barack Obama. I pushed back on George W. Bush because I had to fight those wars.
But at least that was something specific.
And I am thinking very clearly about the men and women who are being put in positions that, once again, without congressional authorization, without public debate, to do the same thing. Have we learned nothing about the last 25 years of war and endless conflict?
What this president has said is that he has not taken us to war, that he wants to prevent war, that he wants to extract us from situations where we've said from the beginning that we won't have any boots on the ground
bombing
in Ukraine.
Iran,
So I think
bombing
it's a little
the Houthis, bombing boats in the Caribbean. This president doesn't see a problem.
So we aided a mission by Israel in
Iran.
Iran. Did you have a problem with taking out Iranian nuclear facilities?
We've seen more conflict and more use in the military in the first 11 months of this administration than we have in any administration. What needs to happen is they need to come to Congress, and we need to debate this. And for him to say there's no new war, that's exactly the problem, because only Congress can declare a war. Only Congress, according to our Constitution, has the authority to send our men and women into conflict.
We understand the War Powers Act. We know how it works.
Well, apparently you don't, because you're saying
that's not
that
true.
no war exists, so it's not a problem. The United States Congress is the one that has to make that decision.
Specifically what your issue is. And so for prominent members of the United States Congress to tell young men and women of the military that they should not abide by illegal orders and to leave it so vague and to talk about comments that have been made in the past and what they might lead to, I think could potentially be very confusing for young men and women who have committed to service, which you honorably did, and I commend you for the sacrifice that you made. Let me just show you this. This is Senator Eric Schmidt.
I'm going to respond to that.
Go ahead.
Military service is tough. It's really tough.
I don't doubt it.
We send our men and women into very difficult, very sometimes untenable situations. I know that. I've been in those situations. That's why moral clarity, that's why reminding people about what their obligations are, that's why abiding by the law and providing guidance and training them in advance is important. You can never wait until there's a problem to train people and prepare them for that.
Well,
it's really important that we set the conditions right now to make sure that people understand their constitutional obligations. And we are only talking about unlawful orders versus lawful orders.
Right.
That is the
distinction. You just haven't outlined what any specific unlawful order. This is Senator Eric Schmidt that he released on X. This is what he said. At the end of the day, he's speaking about the members of Congress who did this video. They're mad at the American people that the American people chose Trump, and now they're calling on the military and intelligence community to intervene. Sounds a little, quote, subversive to democracy-ish, says Senator Eric Schmidt. So let me give you a moment to respond to that, Congressman.
Yeah, I mean, that's so patently false and absurd. I don't even know how to respond to it. What we are doing is reminding people of their obligations under federal law and under the UCMJ in no different way than I did when I was an infantry officer and an infantry lieutenant preparing my soldiers to be deployed. It is as simple as that. So
well,
people, that's unfortunate that in politics these days, people grab something and twist it and contort it and lie.
Some might say that
make it into
you have
something
grabbed
it's
something
not.
and twisted it and contorted it. You have, you're talking to young members of the American military, and you're not telling them specifically what it is they should see as illegal. So you're putting ideas into their head that maybe they're being asked to do something illegal, and what we're seeing actually is recruitment rising. and people wanting to join the military under the president.
Here's an interesting fact for you, Martha. Our men and women actually are very smart, very incredible men and women in our military. And
you don't
a
have
recent
to tell
survey,
me that.
Well, apparently I do.
No,
a
you
recent
don't,
survey
sir. I have
actually
great
polled
respect for the United States military.
Well, you don't think they can handle a reminder about federal law and the UCMJ, is what I'm hearing. And a recent survey showed that 8 out of 10 service members deeply understand their obligation of lawful orders, right? 8 out of 10. So we want to get that. That should be 10 out of 10. But this is something that they're trained on. Go and look at the training. Maybe even go and participate or observe some of the training that our men and women go through. It is incredible. We expect a lot of these men and women. They go through very intense, rigorous training because they're put in intense, rigorous positions. And frankly, I bristle at the notion that they can't handle a suggestion or a reminder of what the law requires them to do and what the Constitution requires them to do. You actually disparage them when you say that a simple reminder is something they cannot handle.
You're wrong. You're 100% wrong. I didn't disparage them in
That's
any
what
way.
I'm
In
hearing.
fact, I give them enormous credit.
You don't think they can handle reminders about their legal obligations?
I think
These men and women certainly can handle it.
Specific and they could figure out what order you're referring to. I have the most deep respect for everyone who serves in the military, including you, sir, for the sacrifice that you made. I did not make that sacrifice myself. So I put everyone who makes that sacrifice in a very special place in my heart. And I believe they're there to serve the country. So you have put out this video. It's getting a lot of attention. I thank you for joining me to talk about it.
So when you look the entirety of this video, it was pretty much a PR campaign by Jason Crow. He was pretty much trying to save face. That's the only way I could look at it, but he didn't help his cause, okay? We had active Democratic veterans in our body of Congress put forth a video calling upon the active military members of the United States military to defy unspecified unlawful orders. They couldn't even specify what order the president has given that was unlawful that they're obligated to defy. They basically left it up for self-interpretation, which is like the last thing you want to do for military members. Okay? But when you look at what Jason Crow was defending, he threw out several examples. One example, President Trump made a comment to his generals, would it be easier to shoot him in the leg when dealing with the rioters? But he didn't direct them. He didn't give them an order to do so. So toss that one out. Now, when it comes to deploying military on U.S. soil, the president has their authorization to deploy the National Guard if there is civil unrest. So let's look at that. Chicago, L.A., New York, Detroit. We go on and on and on and on. The amount of civil unrest in these cities, not just with crime in these cities, Washington, D.C. included, illegal immigration. We have federal agents being assaulted, being ran with vehicles, being shot at. So the president, under his duty to defend the United States of America, our Constitution and its people, he is obligated under that oath to deploy the military to bring civility back to society. So we can set that aside. So what unlawful order has the president given? Was it the military strike in Iran? Him taking out Iranian's nuclear facility to help Israel in their war against Iran and its proxies? Was that unlawful? Okay. How about him bombing the Houthis? Is that unlawful? How about the drug boats down in Venezuela? Is that unlawful? No. The president has the authority to commence military operations, then notify Congress in 48 hours, but within 60 days of those operations starting, he has to seek approval to continue further from the body of Congress. See, I'm not in Congress and I know that, so we can put that to a side. So, Mr. Crow and every other member of the body of Congress, I ask you, those during that video, what did he say or order our military to do that was unlawful? See, not one is going to come out and say, well, he did this. They're going to twist his words. They're going to twist the narrative to try to fit their agenda. Now, quite a few people have said it the correct way. The Democrats are pissed because the American people choose a Republican. That's what happens during an election. But you don't see Republicans getting all mad and butthurt when Biden got selected. We just sat back and enjoyed the show. When Obama got elected, you sat back, watched the show. But you got to ask, is there a deeper purpose for this? In my narrative, I think so. This might have been a trap to distract the public from the Epstein files. That's what my take is on this. I think it was a distraction from the Epstein situation. And obviously, you guys know Trump. Trump is going to open his mouth. It's how he is. But was Trump wrong with what he said? Well, Mr. Schumer thinks so.
Let's be clear. The President of the United States has called for the execution of members of Congress. No president has ever stooped that low. No president has ever encouraged violence the way this president has. Every office holder, and where the hell are the Republicans, should speak out against what he has done.
Anything that these guys say, Chuck Schumer, every Democrat, you can't take it as truth no more. Because they take people's words and they twisted it. He openly said that Trump is calling for the execution of Congress members. Last time I checked what Trump said, seditious behavior punishable by death. He stated a crime. He stated the punishment for that crime. He never once came out and said, we must execute these people now. There are a lot of people on social media who are calling for the punishment of these individuals because it is treasonous behavior. But the Democratic Party does not surprise me when it comes to their rhetoric. Take a look. Listen, over the last 10 years, this is what they've had to say about Donald Trump and his supporters.
You know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
There needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
You got to be ready to throw a punch. Well, you have to be ready to throw a punch.
You need to go back and punch him in the face.
That I thought he should have punched him in the face.
Feel like punching him.
I'd like to take him behind the gym if I were in high school.
If we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
No, I wish we were in high school. I could take him behind the gym.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
Take him out now. Okay.
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
Please, get up in the face of some Congress people.
People will do what they do.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price.
We're going to go in there, we're going to...
This is just a warning to you Trumpers. Be careful. Walk lightly. And for those of you who are soldiers, make them pay.
If you had to be stuck in an elevator with either President Trump, Mike Pence, or Jeff Sessions, who would it be?
Does one of us have to come out alive?
So when you hear the far left calling for the death of a president of the United States of America, the political violence towards the right, you've been hearing these people just pushing this narrative for 10 years straight. That anybody that votes for this orange man are very bad people. They're Nazis. They're Gestapos. These are monsters. We must take them out. But when Trump calls out a crime, and he calls out the punishment for that crime, they'll twist his words into their own seductive narrative because their entire base is filled with the mentally ill. And that's just straight facts. Now, Trump obviously responded to the Washington Examiner Take a look at this. They end up putting out Democratic veterans in Congress urge service members to refuse unspecified unlawful orders. He responded and said, it's called seditious behavior at the highest level. Each one of these traitors to our country should be arrested and put on trial. Their words cannot be allowed to stand. We won't have a country anymore. An example must be set. I agree with that. You know what I'm saying? I honestly think we're at a point in our country. Our country is young. Okay, still young for a democratic country. Well, sorry, Democratic People's Republic type country. But we got to start setting examples for those who want to call for civil unrest, those who want to call for a civil war, for those that want to call for political violence, and those who want to call for a military coup. I don't think this behavior should be allowed to stand. And we already know that people that are on the far left, people of the Democratic Party, will not call this out for what it is. I mean, we might get Fetterman and maybe a handful of others, but not the majority of the Democratic Party. It's because they're so brainwashed into the idea that they got to get Trump, and anything Trump does is bad, but everything they do is right. That narrative is engraved in their mind. You're not going to be able to change these people's perspectives. Okay? So I urge anybody that watches this, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, I don't care what political spectrum you're on, this has to be called out for what it is. Treasonous behavior. They're literally calling upon our military to defy the President of the United States. They could twist the narrative all they want. They could twist the words. But it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what they're really calling for. Is to overthrow the will of the American people. To subvert their way upon us. That's their goal. You find it pretty awkward that over the last 4 years under Biden that we were shoved down our throats that we must believe in their narrative? That men should be in women's sports, men should be in women's spaces, that a man is a woman and a woman is a man. This is the narrative that they were forcing us to believe in. Obviously, those on the right are like, yeah, we're not having it. I'm not going to call you by your pronouns. My words are not violence. My words are words, and they hurt your feelings. I'm not the feelings police. Seek a therapist. Get the help that you need. Pray for this country. I think this is what this country needs most of all, is prayer. This country needs Jesus. I think that's the only king this country truly needs is Jesus Christ. I don't foresee anything else saving this country. You know, we have people openly calling for a military coup in our government. We've had very openly over the last 10 years calling for political violence against the right. It's very shameful to watch this country turn to this. And I'm praying that they'll see the light. I yield the floor, and I'll talk to you all in the next episode. Have a good night, y'all.